Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Two for Talking podcast. I am your host, Corey Tusick. I've got Josh Yohe with The Athletic. He is down in Raleigh, North Carolina. He just watched the Penguins lose in overtime. And then I got Joe Bartnick, comedian, who's sitting outside the Comedy Store, about to go on in front of Mr. Burr.
Yeah, all systems to go for that. But we got a lot, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
As far as Penguins go, all ugly for the Steelers. I don't know, Josh. I thought we played one of our three best games against Florida. I thought we got screwed in Detroit, and I thought tonight was just a disgrace, and we could have lost 30-0.
Oh.
Well, I'll start with tonight since it's fresh on my mind, Joe. They were great in the first period, the Penguins were. They came out in the first 10 minutes, like just really crisp. They had the puck a lot. Erik Karlsson, I mean, the play he made on Michael Bunting's goal was unbelievable. That was, more of what we've been expecting to see from Erik Karlsson. The second period, though, that looked like the Penguins in October. That was giving up odd man rushes, making bad plays with the puck. I can tell you, just because it was only about an hour ago, Mike Sullivan was as angry after this game as I've seen him all season. He was really unhappy with the Penguins after this performance. Now, on the surface, to get a point in Carolina is pretty good for them. They haven't won here since 2018, for Christ's sake. They do not play well in this building against that team. They just don't. So all things considered, I think you have to be fairly pleased with how they're playing big picture, but you can't blow 2-0 leads. I'm sorry. And Carolina's not playing that great right now either. And they played the night before also. So it's not a good point like I thought in Florida it was.
No, there's nothing. I mean, they're the most frustrating team to watch. It seems like there's always somebody back. There's always somebody on us. I hate the way they play. I hate that team. I know it's not great analysis. I mean, Chatfield is Bobby Orr when he plays the Penguins.
I know.
It's incredible how he plays against us. I mean, but let me speak. I'm so distraught after this game because bad teams look bad in the second period, and that's where we just self-destructed. I mean, we were on the wrong side of every single puck. Are they that well coached, or do we just play that bad, Josh?
Well, I think regular season Rod is a great regular season coach. I mean that sincerely. I do think in a lot of ways they are everything the Penguins are not. The things the Penguins do that frustrate people, Carolina never does those things. I asked Jeff Carter last year, I said, what is it about this team that just drives you guys so crazy? I said, can you give me any explanation for what it is, why you can't beat these guys? And Carter said to me, he said, they make you play 200 feet more than any other team in the league. He said, there's always someone in your face, and our guys just don't like that. If you want to beat us, that's the best way to do it. And he's right. They don't like it, and they don't play well against it. The second period, it just everything about it was absolutely horrible. And it's one of those games, like they gave up 4 goals. I didn't think Ned played poorly at all. Like it could have been worse. Even Ned was hard on himself, as he always is, and a reporter brought that up to Sully, and Sully just brushed it off. He said, no, those were great goals they scored. He says, nothing Ned could have done about those. And I tend to agree with him. So it's a bad matchup. There is good news, though, guys. This is the 41st game of the season, so we are exactly at the halfway point of the season for the Penguins, and they are done with the Carolina Hurricanes. That's the last time they played Carolina. Only 3 times against the Canes this season. They went 0-2-1 against them. It's just a terrible matchup for them. So at least it's out of the way. And if you had told me the other day, they would get 2 points in Florida and Carolina, you'd probably take it, all things considered.
Well, that's the truth. The big disgrace was how we lost 2 points in Detroit. But we can get to that in a second. I thought the defense as a whole tonight, though, played pretty good because they had to be on their heels. I thought Letang looked okay. I liked having P.O. and Pickering together. I thought they played pretty good. And Karlsson played well. My problem, the forwards were terrible thing. I mean, the first line, they were -3 until Karlsson saved them, I believe. And then Gino's hurt. His hand must be broken or something. He hasn't looked right in 2 games now. And the third line, I mean, I know Hayes scored a goal. I thought they were not a non-factor. O'Connor, he went from 2 goals to being me calling up for Yesse again. And then, I don't know. I was really disappointed because I don't think Carolina is a good team. And they had played the night before, and you could see a playoff spot on the horizon, going to bed in 8th place. And we just let that bunch of garbage. I mean, Seth Jarvis, I think, what is he? He's Pavel Datsuk against us, for Christ's sake.
No, I know. He really is. No, I agree with pretty much everything you said. And you bring up Gino. He's been playing so well lately, I think better than his numbers. I did not like his game in Florida. He looked a little off in that game, and I thought he was terrible tonight. I was probably the worst game he's played all season. He looked slow. He looked really a step slow. He was not engaged. And to put in perspective, not only did he not have a shot on goal tonight, Joe, he did not have a shot attempt. He was a complete non-factor. And I talk about the problems the Penguins have in Raleigh. Well documented. 8 games now in a row they've lost against Carolina. In his last 8 games in this building, Evgeny Malkin has 0 goals and 1 assist. He doesn't like playing against that team. He doesn't like playing against Big Jordan Staal, as we know. He just wasn't real sharp at all tonight. The top line, it was weird. You're right. They were a -3 or whatever it was. Like, I actually thought they looked great in the first period, though. Sid was flying in the first period. Like, they did some things, and I will say this, Rusty almost had a breakaway in the second period. It should have been a penalty. He got whacked in the hand, and they turned right back around and scored the game-tying goal as a result, and the Penguins were barking at the ref all the way back to the bench. Carolina did get a break there. That should have been a Penguins power play, but nonetheless, it was just really irresponsible play from the Penguins, the kind of crap that we saw early in the season, and for the most part, they've, I think, fixed it, but it certainly popped up at the wrong time tonight. You don't want to blow a 2-0 lead against anyone, but especially in a building where they so rarely win. That was finally an opportunity to win, and they just let it go.
Yeah, this was the first time Gino all year looked like horrible Gino.
Yeah,
like Madden getting on him, Gino. Like it looked like the Gino of Madden's nightmares tonight. That being said, I didn't think they earned. I thought the loser point didn't even earn the loser point tonight. I really believe that, but I thought they absolutely deserved the only happy loser point I've had all year was in Florida. I thought they played their ass off against the best team in hockey and took all the physical punishment. I thought Jari played a hell of a game. I thought all 4 lines contributed. I mean, that was like a 1-8 matchup in a game 4 in the first round of the best of 7. I mean, that was a war.
Yeah, I thought they were terrific in that game, Joe. And I can tell you, you can always tell what Mike Sullivan thinks, not necessarily by what he tells us after games. But if you ask the players, they'll tell you what Sullivan said to them, and they'll let you know. And they were feeling pretty good about themselves after that game in Florida, and they should be. And you mentioned how physically tough Florida is to play against, and the Penguins stood up to them. They really matched them blow for blow in that game, and it was a really difficult game to be without Chris Letang. He's their most sturdy defenseman. He's the guy that can deal with that forecheck of Florida's better than anybody probably on that Penguins roster. They didn't have him in the lineup, and they still did okay. And I want to highlight Owen Pickering in that game. He wasn't perfect, but that was his first game in 2 weeks. He had the concussion. So think about this. You're 20 years old. You've only played a handful of games in the NHL. You're coming back off a concussion. You haven't played in 2 weeks. You're playing on your offside, on the right side, and you got Ryan Graves as your defense partner, and you have to play against the Florida freaking Panthers, who are just looking to take your head off every chance they get. And I thought he really acquitted himself well. I continue to be really impressed with young Mr. Pickering, and the blue line in general was really good in that game. And I didn't think they were terrible tonight. I agree with you. I thought the forwards really left them hung out to dry against Carolina. But that Florida game, man, that showed me something. The Penguins probably should have won that game. Gino buries that empty net 9 times out of 10. That he had in the third period. Let's be honest, if he scores there, they probably win. They probably could have won the game a couple of different times in 3-on-3 play. Whereas tonight against Carolina, I don't think they touched the puck in overtime. They really didn't. So they did a lot of bad things tonight. But if you want to be an optimist, that point they got in Florida, to me, that was impressive. And it also may have been Jari's best game of the year. So we saw a lot of good things.
I think so too. And I'll tell you, we didn't have the puck for most of the game tonight. I mean, it seemed like we never had the puck. But now let's go back one more game, because I think this is the haunting game as Detroit creeps up the standings. They're playing a lot better. They're actually playing inside the circles. They're doing what I used to beg Matthews and Marner to do. They're doing what good teams do now. The Brinkat, Larkin, Kane, they're all playing inside the circles, which is how you win hockey games. And I very rarely say this, and you guys know, and Corey knows, he listened to podcast for years. I very rarely ever blame the referees when the Penguins lose. But we got screwed in Detroit, Josh. We got screwed. It's going to haunt us.
I agree. And I typically don't write about the officiating in my articles. I made it a point to mention it after that game. Man, a lot of breaks with the Penguins waited. In fact, there was the one play where Rusty was called for a penalty, and then the refs had to talk about it and say, oh, actually, he got slashed. So that shouldn't be a penalty, which tells you the guy didn't see it. He just saw a broken stick. And, oh, okay, I'm going to call penalty. No, the officiating in that game was absolutely horrendous. It cost the Penguins time and time again. And Rusty, there was the play when he beats Moritz Seider. I think the Penguins were shorthanded, right? And Seider just grabbed his shoulder and pulled him. It was the obvious call. I mean, it was the most obvious call ever, and they don't call it, and they go right down and score, just like tonight. And not quite as blatant tonight, but Russ should have drawn a penalty. So, no, that game in Detroit, even though I didn't think the Penguins played a great game, I thought they were just okay. Man, they did not catch any breaks in that game.
No, because their first two penalties were garbage.
They were. Called on them. Well, the one on Cody Glass was really bad. Yeah.
And then Carlson's was like, yeah, okay. You know, that was a penalty. You didn't have to call it, but okay, that was a penalty. But the first two were just garbage. And then the absolute Sherrod's cross-check to Gino's skull in the crease.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Cross-checking somebody face first into the post, and most cultures is a penalty. And Gino was understandably furious. In fact, that game, like Gino, Sid, and Rusty and Sullivan were all absolutely furious with the officiating at different portions of the game. And those guys don't yap at the refs the way they once did. So when you see all of them that angry, that kind of tells you something was going on that night. No, they've not gotten any breaks lately. You know, they're 1-2-2 since the Christmas break, which is not a disaster. But I do think their momentum's been slowed a little bit. They were 11-3-1 going into the break, getting those 4 days off. It just kind of came at the wrong time, I think, the way they were playing. But they've gotten a little bit unlucky. I actually thought tonight was probably their worst performance of all of those games since they went back. But they have been on the road a good bit. The good news now for the Penguins, well, maybe it's good news. We'll see. They've got a 5-game homestand, which I believe is their longest homestand of the season. And you got Columbus and McJesus, then Ottawa, and I think Tampa, and then Seattle coming to town. So what the Penguins need now is to take advantage of some home cooking. And in those 5 games coming up, get yourself 7 or 8 points, and they'll be sitting in okay shape before they go out to California to visit Mr. Bartnick in person.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, we need a great game tomorrow or Tuesday. Sorry.
What do you think? I thought Jari deserved to play tonight.
I was a little surprised he didn't. Actually,
yeah, I was.
It's funny because I kind of thought I didn't like how Jari played against the Islanders off the break, and then Ned had a couple of decent games. I actually wouldn't have been shocked if Ned got the start in Florida on Friday night, but he did not. Jari played well. Perhaps it was just already predetermined that they were each playing a game on this trip. That's fine. But I'm curious to see how Jari looks. I'm sure he'll get the start against Columbus on Tuesday. He looks so good against the Panthers. He needs just to put some kind of a streak together. We all know this. If the Penguins have a chance to make the playoffs, he's got to get hot. And I loved how he played in Florida, Joe. So we'll see. He has not been good at home this season, but he needs to turn that around immediately.
Can we maybe get him to not face the backboards and potentially let the puck go off his pads into the net? Jesus Christ. Like, I've never seen a guy do that so much.
He was a bit of an adventure the other night playing the puck. That
I
is
mean,
for sure.
he's still yeah. But so you think? I mean, you'd probably put your money on him starting on Tuesday against Columbus.
Yeah, I mean, not that Ned was bad tonight, but my guess would be Jari, especially after the way he played against Florida. I would assume he will get the start against the Blue Jackets. The Blue Jackets, by the way, who aren't quite as terrible as usual, like they're still kind of hanging around in the playoff race somehow, Joe.
No, they got all those Russian guys I can't name that are all playing pretty good.
Yeah,
Mearsy has him down pat, which is good for him. Yeah, they're playing pretty good, and hey, they're right where we're at. So,
yeah.
Even like, Detroit, they were terrible. Coach, they're like what, 2 points behind us. And the Rangers are like 3, like we're all together. Anyone puts together a run.
No,
anybody does. They're in good shape.
No, you're absolutely right. This is Mearsy's return to Pittsburgh on Tuesday night, isn't it?
Oh, is he gonna get a video tribute?
You never know. They give one to everyone else. They might as well. I would assume. My favorite video tribute story is ever. They for a while they were doing them for everyone, and now they just have a policy. They only do it for guys who won Stanley Cups, and there aren't many left.
Right.
But years ago now, James Neal was supposed to get one when he came back with Nashville. I think it was on Super Bowl Sunday, I want to say. And the Penguins gave up 2 goals like in the first 2 minutes of the game. And they said, screw it. And they just scrapped it. And he never got his video because the crowd's probably in a bad mood now. This might not be a good time to do it. So that was the end of that.
Mr. October isn't Reggie Jackson.
No,
it's James Neal.
All right.
The real deal, James Neal. I got the feeling tonight. I don't know if you felt this way, Josh. At the game, but it felt like we wanted to win 2-0. It felt like we got the 2-goal lead, and it was like, please, let's just get this way. And Joe, by the way, astute observation. Ever since I heard years ago the second period thing, it's the most accurate thing. You watch every game, and you're like, oh God, we're getting destroyed in the second period. Must mean we suck tonight.
It's the long change. It means undisciplined teams, and it means teams with skill that can all of a sudden turn a quick puck. Oh, right, all of a sudden it's a 3-on-2.
Yep.
Those are the teams that beat the mediocre to bad teams.
And that's what tonight felt like. It was just like, oh God, they're holding on, hoping this is a 2-0 game.
It felt like they were on a power play the whole. Like if they were better, if they had 2 more guys that could shoot the puck like Jarvis, we would have lost 9-2.
No, it's true. I mean, but that's what Carolina does. They don't really have that much. It's not that they don't have any skill, but they just shoot the puck from everywhere, and it's all about quantity, not quality with them. That's always been kind of their philosophy. But yeah, the second period, you're right. It was completely undisciplined from the Penguins. I think that goes without saying. And we do see that in the second period from them a lot. I don't think that's coincidental, quite honestly.
But Josh, it may be just teams I don't like to give me this feeling, but like there's a chaos the way Carolina shoots it, but it's like controlled chaos. Mm-hmm. It's like a swarm. It's like the hurricane going around. They're shooting the puck, and Jarvis is going around, and Svechnikov, and they're all in Aho, and they're all just in this big swirl, and Burns and Chatfield. Where it's kind of the same way the Flyers do it, where they're just always in crap mode, and the puck's coming from everywhere. It's everything's almost an icing, and they hunt it down, and it's like that same kind of chaos where there's never a Flyer game that ever just doesn't feel like chaos in a bad way. Just kind of like Carolina, it always feels like chaos in a bad way. Where you even taking great teams against us. It seems like it's the flow of a regular hockey game. But Carolina and the Flyers, it just seems like chaos the whole time. Like you're always uneasy.
But yeah, it is control. It is a controlled chaos with Carolina. And I will say this for the Canes, like they know exactly who they are. Like they don't have any identity issues. They play the same way every single night. I personally find them the most boring team in hockey to watch. I can't stand watching them play. But it's a style that clearly gives the Penguins fits. It always has, at least for the last almost decade now. And I also think Carolina's team speed. They have a lot of it. And teams that do give the Penguins problems, we'll see it probably Thursday night against Edmonton. For the last couple of years, teams that can really skate, boy, oh boy, that is the Penguins' kryptonite, whether it be New Jersey, the Oilers, the Hurricanes, teams of that ilk. particularly give them fits. And part of it is because the Penguins don't have any discipline and they want to try to skate with those teams. And they can't help themselves. Whereas a team like Florida, as great as Florida is, like they don't have that blinding speed. And I think the Penguins, therefore, feel a lot more comfortable in a matchup against them. And they usually play them really tough. So it's something to be aware of here in this upcoming homestand.
Well, it's also like, it's kind of interesting. Like, we actually, I don't want to jinx it, but we played good against the Kings this year. But, Carolina's an in-your-face team. The Devils are an in-your-face team. I've said this before in this podcast. We hate and you said it just made me think of it. You said it a couple minutes ago. The in-your-face, we hate the in-your-face teams. It's like in basketball, the teams that press hate to be pressed. We love teams that let everyone enter the zone, come out of the zone, free will in the neutral zone. We love those games.
Oh yeah,
teams that clog the neutral zone or teams that don't let us do what we want to do, we get frustrated.
No, absolutely, and you saw it at times tonight. It was troubling when Carolina took control of that game tonight. Really, in the first couple of minutes of the second period, you could feel it, and the Penguins they had no answer. Like they were just in survival mode for the longest time, and Carolina really didn't step back and take the foot off the gas until they took the lead. And the Penguins were able to take advantage. I actually didn't think the Penguins were bad in the third period. But when Carolina turns on the Jets like that, you're right. There was nothing the Penguins could do. It was everything in their power just to dump the puck to the neutral zone and get to the bench.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you guys what your thoughts are on Michael Bunting, because we kind of had all taken some, we were, a little annoyed with his play earlier in the season, but what are you guys seeing that's really turning it around for him, other than putting the puck in the net? Obviously, that always helps.
I'm going to let Joe go first because he was all over his ass earlier this year.
Yeah, it's funny. My puck off coach, Andy, called me last night and said, I can't believe I forgot to mention how much I've loved Bunting's game. We were on them at the beginning of the season, and I was king of the anti-Bunting. I said, well, you know what? When you're not taking dumb penalties and you're not going offside to take away Gino highlight goals, you're going to be more in my good graces. He's putting the puck in the net. He's aggressive. He's being the little bastard that he should be without taking stupid penalties. So I'm 1,000% for his game. He's playing how he should. I called out Gino tonight. I may have said he probably is injured. I called out the top line. I don't play favorites. These are my Penguins. Like, I call it as much down the line as I can. Right now, he's one of our 2 or 3 best players on the ice. Oh. And Staggy's made a point a couple times that it was when he wasn't on the power play, he didn't get his mojo working. And as soon as they put him back on the power play, he's got some stick taps to Staggy for calling it out.
No, he's right. I actually sat down with Bunting after practice yesterday in Raleigh, and I said, "What the hell, man? Like, what's gotten into you?" That's how I interview people sometimes. Like, what the hell? And he admitted it. He said, "My confidence in October was bad." He said, I said, "Do you ever start to think to yourself when you're in that kind of a slump, like, man, did I lose it? Like, do I have the yips or what's going on?" He said, "Yeah, you're human. Of course you do." He said, I just went back to, he said, "I just had to start doing, what I do." And he basically said, "I have to start playing like a jerk." He said, "I just got back to trying to hit somebody on the first shift and then throw a puck on net the first shift and just kind of get in somebody's face and just park myself in front of the net." I mentioned the Hurricanes and they know who they are. Like, Michael Bunting knows who he is. And when he's playing well, this is what he does. He's not a highly skilled guy. He's not a big guy. He's not that fast. But he is a thorn in your side. He is fearless. And Joe, how about some of the plays he's made? He's got 12 goals in his last 28 games, so he's obviously playing really well. But how about the pass he made to Gino for that empty net that should have been a goal in Florida? How about the pass he made to Raquel to set up the game tying goal in Florida with the goaltender pulled? I mean, his entire game right now is good.
Yeah, his playmaking skills are on point. I mean, he's playing great as far as that goes. And he's getting back. He's playing defense. He's getting the puck out. His game is 1,000% in the right direction on both sides of the blue line. I think he's played fantastic. And all apologies and keep it up, Bunting. So that's all I can say. And I'll tell you what, I like him on number one power play for many reasons. Why? Because he shoots the puck. He's not afraid to shoot the puck, and it's not having the 4 Hall of Famers all skating around looking for the pretty pass. He adds to the people who don't have their ego and keep their ego in check and shoot the puck.
That's right.
Yeah. No, I love whenever he plays like a jerk. That's what we loved about him whenever he first came here last year. So it's good.
But Corey, he's not taking the stupid penalties,
Yeah.
and he's not being such a jerk that he's dragging the big guys into it.
That's
Be
right.
your jerk and either take somebody with you or don't get a penalty. But whatever you do, don't make it where it's coming back to 71 and 87.
Yeah, no, yeah, but you got to be annoying, but be in their face. And I like what he said. I mean, what he said to you, Josh. Throw a puck on net, get in somebody's face on the first shift. That's probably how you know bunting's on.
No, that's a very simple approach. He's always been a little bit of a streaky player, but when he's playing like this, man, what a difference he makes.
Yeah.
I mean, he is extremely. The Penguins don't have a lot of depth at wing. Okay, we know after Ricard Raquel and Brian Russ, there's a big drop off. But Bunting, when he plays like this, he's a valid guy to have on Gino's left side. He's a perfect third wheel on a line with him. They still need to find someone else to play on the right side. Cody Glass isn't that guy. I don't know who that guy is other than Russ or Raquel, but they're not going to break up the top line, I don't believe. So that remains an issue, but at least Bunting is solidifying himself on that line, and he frankly deserves to be there the way he's playing right now.
Isn't that the truth? That he is a top 6 winger.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
He's earned the right to be a top 6 winger. No doubt about it. And one other minor a couple of whatever the word is. I thought Graves played really good against the Big Cat Florida Panthers.
Yeah,
and he was out of the lineup against Carolina, which surprised me a little bit. I thought it was one of Graves' better games.
Yeah,
I thought he was really good against Florida, and I think he's been pretty good recently, quite honestly. Hey, that's a good thing. Like, Graves and Shea were the scratches tonight. Like, they've both been okay. So, that in a way, that's a good thing. At least you have guys playing at a high level. Grizzlick has been so good with Carlson. Like,
No, I thought it was proper. As much as Graves, I love Graves' game against Florida. He would have got exposed so bad tonight. Like, at least P.O. and Pickering can move around a little bit. Because the way Carolina was skating, he would have been an orange cone out there.
Yeah, no, you're right, and it's amazing that Kevin Hayes scored a goal against that team. The way he skates and the way they skate, and he also had a breakaway in the third period, by the way, which is like, I don't know. I still don't know how that happened, but it did.
Yeah, he actually played pretty good.
He was fine.
Is the Matt Nieto experience about it? I mean, how many more games do we have to come up with loser points to figure there might be a better fourth line in there?
Well, there is. I think those guys are still on the team because they can kill penalties. That's something the Penguins have done fairly well. So, but no, you're right. I mean, eventually you need a little bit more offense. And I now that Lozada's cooled off a little bit, Achari and Nieto, boy, those two on the ice together, you're not expecting a whole lot of offense. That's for sure.
I think they're on the ice too much.
Lately,
I see a lot of them. I think because he thinks they're better than the third line, which I'm not even arguing that point. I just think they're out there a lot with no. I mean, now that our boy O'Connor broke the streak, but he played terrible. I think he was terrible tonight after playing really good in Florida. But yeah, I think you need O'Connor out there, and you need somebody that might score.
Yeah, no, I agree. And apparently, Jesse Puljujärvi is not the guy that that Mike Sullivan thinks is going to score. He has been out of the lineup for quite some time.
Or the league. No one picked him up.
I was a little surprised by that. I talked with a lot of people around the league. They all thought he was going to get picked up. They thought somebody would. He didn't, however, which is a good thing for the Penguins, I think. I still think there's something there. But we shall see, but I do think the Penguins are a little deeper now than maybe we thought they would be at this point, especially without Lars Eller. I looked in the press box tonight. I saw Ryan Graves and Ryan Shea sitting there. I'm like, they've been playing okay lately, and they're not good enough to play right now. Maybe that's a good thing. And Tomasino is hurt, by the way. He's considered week to week, so not a major injury, but it looks like he's out a couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, but I like him way more than Glass.
I like him better with Malkin, for sure. I don't mind Glass on a bottom six role. He's pretty good defensively. He doesn't hurt you. But
No, I'm sorry.
Watching Glass with Malkin, I mean, it's not going to work.
No, it's not. I mean, see, I can live with Glass. I can live with Glass, Achari, and whoever on the fourth line.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you get something, I'll tell you this: Cody Glass has on the NHL video game I'm playing with my son, and they had him ranked so low. It was like I was like, oh my god, the computer does not like this guy. I tried putting him in the lineup, and they were like, no, don't play this guy. It's funny though. You have to have players in there, and I, like Josh said, with having some players where you're looking at the press box and you're going, hey, you actually haven't been terrible. That's a welcome sign for the Penguins because.
So did Beauvillier get held or didn't make the play there? Because on Gino, or the one play when he had a break, he was a follow-up guy on a breakaway.
He just got boxed out. I don't know if it was a penalty or not.
Okay.
I just don't think he was strong enough. I know the play.
Yeah, no, because like he's a guy. I know I toot his horn and I'm down on him a little bit, but like I don't know. I think he's got to play with. If he's in the lineup, then just play him with Gino because there's a better chance he might score than Glass. I don't know.
I think Beauvillier is on pace for almost 20 goals. Like he's been good. I don't.
Surprise for me of the season, honestly.
He's pretty responsible defensively. Brings some speed to the lineup. I don't have a problem. By the way, I know this is primarily an NHL podcast, but quick shout out to Team USA World Juniors just beat Finland in overtime. To win the gold medal. So congrats to the Americans. And how did Canada do? Like 5th or 6th place?
There's
I had to throw that out there.
Well, I think we'll talk about them on the second segment a little bit. But also, I think the local boy, what's his name? I think he scored the third goal.
Yes. And I can't think of his name either.
Why am I blanking on his name?
I got it right here. I thought Team Finland's guy was a Penguin guy. He scored the third goal.
Brandon Swoboda from Level Green. He scored it. But there's another Penguin guy out there.
Yeah, who scored the third goal for Finland is a Penguin prospect.
Yeah. But no, the Swoboda, he's not a Penguin guy, but a Pittsburgher. That's good to hear. That was
Pieni Niemi is who you're talking about, Joe. But I'd have to look at the box score. And he's a Kingston Frontenac as well, so I've seen him play a few times. That's where my kids live.
Right.
He's going to be really good. The Penguins blue line. There's finally some prospects coming. He's going to be a good one. He's better than a point per game player in junior hockey right now. So in a couple of years, with Brunick and this kid as well, they've got some talent coming on the blue line finally.
Excellent. Well, hey, look, we ended on a positive after a bed. But that'll do it for the first segment. On the second segment, we'll come back, talk around the league, go up and down the league. But before we get into that, we got to talk about insurance with the Reg Dunlap of insurance, which and we're now ticking down. We're in the quarter of the year that you'll be going to watch Carrot Top with Mr. Bill Neofis.
Yeah, we are. What is this? January 5th? 2 months and 1 day from the big night, and of course it is front row seating for Carrot Top. That's the way Bill does it. Literally, you don't sit in the second row when you see his favorite performer in Vegas. You go right to the front. So our friend Bill, as always, if you need any kind of insurance, I don't care what kind of insurance it is. You name it, the Neofis Insurance Group. They're located in the North Hills in Pittsburgh. Very easy to find, easy location. Give them a call. Seriously, they will help you out. You will get the most fair rates you can imagine. And more importantly, just the way they treat people, it's really top notch. We don't go into business with people who aren't, quality human beings. And Bill and his staff, they're the best. They wanted to extend Happy New Year wishes to the three of us and also all of our listeners out there. So Happy New Year from Bill. So yes, the Neofis Insurance Group, 412-364-3388. Give Bill a call. Tell him we sent you. He'll be very happy to talk hockey with you and also a little bit of insurance.
Yeah. Happy New Year, Bill. Thanks for everything.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Neofis. All right, let's go up and down the league now. Josh, you have the Dallas on your up list. You have the Dallas Stars at the top of your list. They are 7-2-1 in their last 10, winners of 4 straight as well. Things are starting to look like the Dallas Stars that we thought they would be.
Yeah, I mean, they've had a couple of lulls, but they're just like steadily very good. And I think one of these years they're going to win the cup. They're in fact my pick this season. I always say about them, Joe, good luck finding a weakness on their roster. Like, they're just good everywhere. They're just so solid top to bottom in every phase of the game. They did the Penguins a favor the other night, beating Ottawa in regulation. The Penguins and Ottawa are kind of having a battle for that last playoff spot right now. And Dallas, they're just kind of quietly going about their business, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was in the building when they beat us 7-0, and it wasn't even that close.
No, there's not.
The mercy rule. Yeah, my man Rupe Hintz is warming up.
Yeah, he is.
The Pasadena kid, Jason Robertson, you love him. And, Mira Hurskin, Harley, Mr. Harley, his partner he scored the game winner in overtime. I think they won. I think they had a 5-game homestand. I think they just won 4 or 5 in a row. They're going to hit the road. And if you have the NHL package or ESPN Plus, they have a really great announcing team. I don't know who their play-by-play guy is, but the Razor, Daryl Ray, is the color guy. He did a little stint for Versus or the Outdoor Network or whatever way back in the day. I don't know if you know him personally, Josh, but I love the way he colors the game, and they have all that talent. They're a great watch. I watch them a lot, and they're going to have Mr. Sagan's LTIR money to play with. So I bet they're going to go deep sea fishing come March.
I would not be surprised if they do. And
yes.
Somebody in the West is going to have to beat them. And, Edmonton pulled it off last year. It wasn't easy. Not going to be easy again. I'm telling you, that team's a heck of a tough out.
Absolutely.
Sticking in the West, number 2 on your up list is Minnesota. Winners of 3 straight, but they did just beat Ovi, and we'll get into that a little bit, in the shootout. But third in the West, and I'm trying to remember you guys' preseason list. I don't think they were anywhere near third.
I had them last. I had them underneath the Connor Bedard experience in Chicago. I'm the first one to say, but Zuccarello came back. Zuccarella's hot. Boldy's hot. Carril's injured, and their captain's injured, and they're still winning. Boy, how are they doing it?
I don't know. They really took it to Carolina last night here too. They made it look easy against them. Flower's playing really well, by the way. They're getting good goaltending from both their guys. Flower, under the radar, has been very good this season for them. It's nice to see him in what we presume is his final season, playing at the level that he is at age 40. He's been great. I don't view them as a Stanley Cup contender. I do think they're certainly a playoff team, however. And I give Billy Guerin a lot of credit. He has been so hamstrung by those rotten contracts that he had to deal with when he took over with Parisi and Suter. I think, are they off the books after this season? They might be.
After this year, and it's all going to go straight to Kirill.
Right. Well, that's okay. You got to pay him, that's for sure. But I think Billy's done a great job, and they have way exceeded any expectations I had for them.
Yeah, Eck came back. That was a big one for them. But just losing, I didn't think they could win a game without Kirill. But then you see Boldy, Marco Rossi.
Yeah,
he's playing incredible hockey. And Zuccarello found the fountain of youth again.
Yeah,
he's scoring goals again.
No,
it seems like he's been in the league since before the lockout.
Oh, I know, doesn't it? Like the 94-95 lockout.
Yeah.
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 No, you're right. He can still play though. No, they're kind of an interesting team. They're fun to watch too. I give them credit though. They have I think been the surprise of the Western Conference.
Yeah. Yes. And another surprise, number 3 on your list, Josh. And this is not me. I'm not throwing shade, by the way, to your predictions, guys. But I throw myself on this one. Nobody saw the Montreal Canadiens being 2 points out of a playoff spot at this point in the season.
Well, certainly not after what we saw the Penguins do to them in Montreal a few weeks ago. They were really in the midst of it then, but they just had a hell of a road trip. And they beat a few heavyweights in the last couple of weeks out of nowhere. And I think this is partially because of how bad the Eastern Conference is. You go on a 3 or 4 game winning streak, guess what? You got a shot to be in playoff contention. That's just the way it is. But I'll give Marty St. Louis a little bit of credit. I don't know how good of a coach he is, but I do know that the roster he has to deal with is not very impressive. And he's got them playing really well. Like I said, they just won 3 or 4 games on the road against really good
The
teams. So,
Avalanche.
yeah, I know they beat the Avs in overtime, I think, and they had a couple of other nice wins. So I didn't see it coming a few weeks ago. I'll say that.
Yeah, I watched them against the Avalanche. Cole Caulfield had a nice goal. I like Slokowski. You know, they've won a couple games. I'm happy for St. Louis because he was really on the hot seat.
Oh yeah, and he still may be. It's not easy being the coach of that franchise. It just, expectations there are a little different than other places, and they haven't won a cup in 32 years. A lot of people don't realize that. It's been a long time.
Well, that's an interesting concept, though, as far as, they must really be hamstrung by the Canadian dollar. And I won't take up all the segment talking about that, but only because you always hear no one wants to play in Toronto because of the pressure, or no one wants to play in Vancouver because of the pressure. But you think people would want to put on the Blue Blanco Rouge. It would be fun to play. It seemed like you'd want to play in Montreal.
Not the worst city to live in, I have to think.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be had there. Yeah.
They should be able to attract somebody to go there.
No, they absolutely should, but they've had really struggled. I mean, it's
that's what I mean.
Most of it's financial. Everybody wants to play in Florida and Texas. That's just the way it is. You're going to have a lot more money when you do it. You're going to be living in nice weather. That's a big deal for a lot of guys.
In 32 years, I tried to look it up real quick, but there's no statistic. That has to be the longest that Montreal has ever gone without winning the Stanley Cup. I can't think of a scenario where they didn't go 32 years.
I don't think they'd ever. In fact, if they don't make the playoffs this year, I think that will be 4 years in a row they're not in the playoffs. They've never done that before.
Yeah, so, that's a truthful statement.
Yeah, I mean,
if they don't make it this year, it's the longest in the franchise history.
No, these are kind of dark times for them. They're not used to this, and you're right. When you look at their roster, it's just the lack of star power that you see. Because when you think of Montreal historically, all you think of is star power, but they don't have a lot of it right now.
Because Toronto's always like, they're in the Stamkos market or they're into this market. You never hear Montreal being in that market.
No.
Yeah.
That's true.
I guess they're not spending money up there. I don't know. Not enough poutine to attract people. On the way down now, we got New Jersey losing 4 straight. Something's wrong, and it's not Aaron Rodgers out there in the Meadowlands or Newark.
No, I mean, I like their team a lot. We've had them in the plus column a lot recently. But 4 in a row is 4 in a row. I don't think they'll have any trouble, making the playoffs and maybe even winning the Metropolitan Division. Even good teams go on little lulls. But when you lose 4 in a row, it gets your attention. I think it's worth keeping an eye on them. But I like their team a lot. They're so good down the middle. They're so fast. They certainly do a lot of good things. I suspect they'll break out of it soon.
They were the victim of the absolute worst goalie interference call I've ever seen, and that's saying something.
I know, I saw it. It's really bad.
or they would have only lost 2 in a row, because I think that was like actually it was last Tuesday night, because I went into it was Wednesday night. It was after the day after the Penguins played Detroit, because I was literally like, wow, now I've seen even worse officiating.
Yeah. On number 2 on your way down is the Tampa Bay Lightning, losers of 3 straight, but 2 of those teams are the Ducks and the Sharks. They had a pretty ugly West Coast trip.
Yeah, that's what got my attention, especially the Sharks loss. I know the Sharks have been playing okay lately, but I still don't know what to make of Tampa. I think they're certainly a playoff team, no question. But we also know that they're not the deepest team in the world. They have their flaws. They're weird because their goal differential is so good, so overwhelming. When they beat you, they usually beat the hell out of you. That's just who they are. But we've seen them lose to a lot of bad teams. They're still kind of streaky. I feel like they're a piece or 2 away, Joe, from being a legitimate cup contender. And financially, I don't know if they can make something happen. But there is no organization in hockey more aggressive than Tampa. So if they find a way, they'll do it.
I think they picked their spots this year. I really do. And maybe they overlooked the Ducks and the Sharks. I will say the Ducks are better than people think. and so are the Sharks. But I think the Ducks legitimately have an okay team. And the Sharks, I just love watching Salabrini. Salabrini got called for a rough the other day. When's the last time a number 1 overall pick got called for a rough by throwing somebody down, Victor Hedman style on the puck? He looked around like, what? I just grabbed the guy and threw him down. I
love this kid. I know.
I love Salabrini. But so that was the game against the Sharks. I saw that, and actually Hedman got taken out, got a puck in the air. But the Ducks just outplayed him. Yeah, Tampa's reeling from giving 9 draft picks for Jeannot. They can't go after too many people because they don't have any draft picks left. They are missing a few pieces. They're still a hard out. I still wouldn't want to play them in 7 games.
No, absolutely not. Their star power speaks for itself. They're dealing, I think, with what the Penguins have dealt with a lot. When you've just made that many deals and spent that much money, there's only so many prospects and draft picks left to make yourself better. So, excuse me, there might be a ceiling for them, but clearly in a tough stretch right now.
Yep. Number 3 on your down list would be the Boston Bruins, which they're just giving up a ton of goals this year. And not really stopping a lot. And that kind of alludes to maybe somebody that we'll see on Joe's list.
Yeah, Joe, you watch a lot of hockey. I know. There's some teams when you watch them in person or even on TV, they just impress you. They jump out at you. Then there are other teams you watch and you see their record is okay. And I'm talking about the Bruins. But every time I watch them, I think to myself, are they really any good? I don't know that they are. They don't really impress me in any particular way.
They play the exact same way every single game. And I'm impressed how they can like almost Bugs Bunny put a little pebble out there and grow a 6'3", 195-pound guy that likes to rough it up in the corner. And they do the same forecheck. And they look pretty good, and the guys like Kostelic guy, and they bring these kids up, and they'll either lose 4-3 or they'll win 4-3. It'll be the exact same game. Pasta's going to get 4 chances. Rat's going to get a couple chances, and if those guys put the puck in the net, they win. If they don't, they don't. McAvoy's regressed. I think they miss Lindholm, and in my pick, Swayman just hasn't made any big saves. But
really
you talk about a disciplined team. I mean, they play with structure. That's why they're in so many games.
They do,
and that's why they frustrate us. Like I was saying a half hour ago, how they're just right there the whole game. They're right there.
They just don't have as much talent as they used to have. I think that's
Exactly.
the issue, right? But no, that's fair. I think they're probably still a playoff team. They are no longer a cup team for sure. But again, when you go on a losing streak in the Eastern Conference, you just welcome up a whole bunch of mediocre teams to take your spot.
And also, back in the day, it's the same format, it's the same structure, but they don't have Chara at the point throwing it 109 at somebody's head and Bergeron on the power play, and Pasta. And Rat, it's like they still got Pasta and Rat, but they don't got the big shot and they don't got Bergeron.
Right.
And Krejci. I mean, literally, that's the difference because they really do look the same, Josh. You watch this.
I know what you mean. Yeah, that's true.
It's funny how they all kind of play the same on that team.
Now on to Joe's list. We'll go with on the up. We got Mr. Leon.
Corey, I just kick off with, and I watch a lot more because now Jack Edwards isn't the play-by-play guy. so I can enjoy some Trent Frederick.
Oh, nobody was worse than Jack Edwards. On the way up on Joe's list, we got Leon Draisaitl, 13-game point streak for Mr. Draisaitl, and good Lord, talk about players I'd just love to see in a Penguins uniform.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of these guys you can put on every week, except I think he has like a 4-game goal streak or something like that. He does have a 13-game point streak. He just seemed to be lighting it up on the fly this week. So I'm like, give Leon a little run. He's Leon. I love him.
And McJesus is not putting up the numbers that he normally does. It's, I guess, a little bit of an off year for his gaudy standards. But Leon is Leon. He keeps producing. he's on pace to go way over 50 goals, maybe touch 60. And I love watching him play on the power play when he goes down low toward the goal line. I've never seen anyone since Mario who could score those bad angle goals on the power play. He's of course left-handed. Mario is right-handed, but he's such of a threat to score from anywhere. He just thinks the game at a different level than other players. I absolutely love watching him play.
That's literally his office on the baseline.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's special. He really is.
Yeah.
I mean, he crucifies the Kings from that spot.
Oh yeah.
Just like it's so funny too. Like they played recently, and Fogle had a great game, and I'm thinking, you don't think Jesus and Leon are like, we got Skinner and got rid of this guy?
And number 2 on your list would be Mr. Marc-Andre Fleury, which Josh, I'm curious, did you get to talk to him in Carolina while you were down there?
No, I didn't actually. During their morning skate, the Penguins were practicing here, and I didn't go to their game because I felt like watching the Steelers game, and honestly, I hate watching the Hurricanes. I didn't want to have to do it 2 nights in a row. But I can tell you that Flower did pull off a little prank with Sid. He sent some Vaseline and some other things into Sid's bag, I think, and screwed things up for him this morning, unbeknownst to the captain, as only he can.
Yeah. And Joe, I mean, I know Marc-Andre, you said a little bit earlier, he's on the upswing, and he's really having a good season, but him and Ovi facing off. I mean, he gave up another goal to Ovi, right? But he stopped him in the shootout.
I thought that's why I put him on. Just the old stop him in the shootout. Just vintage Flower. Just in the big moment, stopping Ovi, and just smile on his face in the interview. It was just, I just throw him on. And we had to talk about the Flower.
That's right. He's having a great year. He really is. He's been really solid for that team. He can still play. Make no mistake.
It's so crazy.
He's 40. He's still pretty good. Like, really. He should stick around and be Canada's goalie in the Olympics next year. I'm only half kidding.
It's pretty soon we'll be wearing the jackets with like all the goalies that we've had since Fleury left, like all the quarterbacks the Browns have had. It'll be us.
That's right.
Steelers are going to have that list too. And then we got Anaheim's Troy Terry, 4 goals in his last 5 games. And like you said, the Duckies, I think we all kind of assume that they stink, but they don't stink that bad. They got some players kind of rounding into form.
Yeah, I just like watching that. He's like an old veteran guy. He's not even old. He's been there. Why came up young,
25 or 6.
And he's a good leader on that team, and he scores some big goals for the Duckies, and the team looks to him. I like a little Troy Terry. Go ahead.
He's one of those guys. He always plays great against the Penguins. He is a bit of a Penguins killer in his young age. And I always think he's so talented. Like he could be even better than he is. Like he's already had a very good career, but if that team continues to progress and puts more talent around him, a lot more people will know who he is. He's a really good player.
He lost out whenever Superman retired. If Getzlaf was still his center, he'd be a 45-50 goal guy.
Absolutely, he would.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
On the way down, we got Chicago. I saw him I was one of the 50 people that watched the Winter Classic, and I could not believe Pat Maroon looked the way he looked. And Joe, you put him on the list, and I look, he's got 10 points on the season.
No. Hey, Pat's not. Pat's never going to be. Luke Robitaille, but he got lit up. He actually scored last night. He got lit up by Wi-Fi, and usually when old goons get lit up like that, that's the end of the road. I love Pat Maroon. But you can't let Wi-Fi kick in your head like that.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty at all. And he looks like a guy who's about at the end, doesn't he?
He was at the end until Berube revived him. He was going to the AHL. They hired Berube. Berube's like, no, he's staying up here. He won 3 cups.
Yes, he did. Yep. But he's got that look.
Yeah.
That's all I could think about.
And I love Pat. It's a shame because I really do. He's just like he went after Jack Edwards. He's the best.
That's right. I like the Jack Edwards theme tonight. That's good.
Yeah.
Is it anything to do with the fact that you're opening for Bird tonight?
No, he knows. He knows I can't stand Jack Edwards.
Number 2 on your list. Speaking of Boston, Jeremy Swayman. We kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but I mean, he's still, we're halfway through the season, more than halfway, and he's below 900 save percentage. Like he's just not getting it done.
He lost 3 straight.
Yep. That puts you on the list.
Yeah,
Think about the 2 guys that they had in Boston. What's that? Yeah, no, he hasn't been good all year. I was gonna say, think about the 2 guys they had last year, and they both the last 2 weeks were on your list, Joe.
Well, at least Allmark's injured.
Yeah, right. He has an excuse. Swayman, I think, has been extremely disappointing in general. Quite frankly, I just for all the stink that he made and his holdout and all the money he's making now. Sorry, whether you had training camp or not, you got to be better than this.
Yep. Number 3 on your list, Joe, would be Peter Anholt, the Canadian Juniors GM. And I love that you just put him on there because I think I saw his comments, so that's a little much for him going up. But Canada, I mean, what was the record in the World Juniors? They made like no mark on the World Juniors whatsoever. Did they finish in 4th? Or no, 5th? 5th?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't even make the semifinals.
They didn't make the semifinals. So yeah.
They lost to a team that only had Kavorka, the lure of the animal. I mean, you can't get on 19-year-old kids, even if half of them are paid professionals by now. It's like they put together a roster that, everyone, which will happen to 4 nations. People always look back and say they should have picked different guys. But from day one, everyone said they picked the wrong roster.
And I can't emphasize enough to people how important that tournament is to that entire country. I mean, Canadians go crazy for the World Junior. The World Junior tournament exists because of Canadians. They almost always play it in Canada because they fill the rinks because they take it so seriously and have so much pride in their 18-year-olds being better than your 18-year-olds at hockey. And I'll tell you what, that's 2 years in a row now the U.S. has won that tournament. And Canada Canada did not look like Canada at all. And that guy deserves a lot of criticism.
Well, it's never coming back. Like once Sid, Jesus, and McKinnon are gone,
right?
That's it. Because it's just more and more skill, and the less it's about some lumberjack from Saskatchewan that'll take a stick to the head, and the more it's about talented athletes. They're coming out of California. They're coming out. Austin Matthews is from Phoenix. Yeah. They get guys from Florida. They get guys from Texas playing hockey. You think is Canada? It's like that's the 51st state in reality.
No,
I'm just saying that when it becomes about athletes and athletics, they're just going to lose to the Americans.
There's just too many of us.
Joe, I should have let you know about it when I went and watched my nephew play against the Baby Kings. They're number 13U AAA team. They're the number 6 team in the country for 2011 born. Like,
I bet my buddy Jordy's kid plays on that. The one.
Oh, really?
The one. Well, yeah, and they've seen Letang because Letang's kids are out there.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I mean, they're good, and there's
youth hockey guys in places like Los Angeles now. Tampa has become a hotbed. St. Louis, Pittsburgh. I mean, it's everywhere now. And when the Americans really start caring about hockey, that's a real problem for Canada because we just have 10 times as many people.
Yep. Oh, looking forward to that. I love bragging on United States over Canada any day of the week. So that'll do it for the second segment. On the third segment, we'll come back and we'll talk something super exciting, super uplifting, and that would be the Pittsburgh Steelers. Welcome back to the third segment of Two for Talking. And well, tell me if you've seen this script before. The Steelers unleash hell in December. And Mike Tomlin just a four-game losing streak straight into the playoffs, which honestly we can call it now. Next week is probably just going to be a post-mortem, and we're going to be figuring out what happened to the body. Last night they lost to the Bengals. It didn't really matter. I mean, you could have gone to Houston, but they just look bad. Like the defense finally last night looked better after the first drive, but the offense is atrocious. And I was sitting there going like, oh my God, we've got Hall of Fame version of Russell Wilson 5 weeks ago. What the hell happened?
That's a really good question, Corey. And they're going into the Snake Pit next Saturday night in Baltimore. I mean, I don't know what the odds are. Baltimore is going to be probably close to a 2-touchdown favorite in that game. I'll bet 10 points plus if I had to guess. The Steelers are a mess. And yeah, I mean, the defense was actually pretty good last night, all things considered, given who they were playing against. But this offense is a joke. It looks like it has looked for years now. A buddy of mine texted me last night and said, why are the Steelers running like a 1989 style offense? And I said, that's a really good question. And even Troy Aikman, who usually these national guys aren't real tough. They don't take shots, but Aikman even said, the Steelers like to run the ball, a lot of quantity, but they're not very good at it. And he's right. Like they're not. They don't do anything on offense. And let's get right to it. I know we only have a few minutes for this segment. George Pickens, Joe, like this guy's a real problem. He had as many catches last night as he had fights with the crowd. 3 drops. You see Russell trying to babysit him on the sideline. You see Pat Fryermuth trying to babysit him on the sideline. I think the whole city of Pittsburgh's about done with this guy.
Well, they should be done. They better not re-sign him.
Oh.
They better not re-sign him. I just think I think it's bad up top. Some people that sign some of my paychecks are very tight with the Steelers, so I'm not going to go too big. But I think the problem is way above even the coach. I think that's the problem, and I don't know how an organization that told Chuck Noll it may be time to get on with your life's work. That told Bill Cowher, you might want to go to CBS, check your options. They can't get rid of Mike Tomlin.
I mean that.
I mean, okay, even forget Cowher. They let Chuck Noll go after a couple bad years. And I heard this, which I don't even know if it's true. I read or saw online that the Pirates have as many playoff wins since 2010 than the Steelers.
That would be correct.
The 3, yeah, that's
well. That's I mean, I just think that's what you tell Mr. Tomlin.
How many coaches?
A team that doesn't try has more playoff game wins than you.
Listen, they're probably going to lose next week, but so let's just assume for a second they do. That will be 8 years, 8 seasons without a playoff win. That will be 3 playoff wins since 2010. So that's 3 playoff wins in 14 years. How many coaches survive that? And consider that those 3 playoff wins, 2 of them were against backup quarterbacks, and you had a Hall of Fame quarterback in his prime for most of that time. What else needs to be said? And I don't think Mike Tomlin's a terrible coach. Obviously, he's better than some. But what is the standard now? If we're settling for mediocrity, fine, but at least let us know. And the Steelers are so obsessed with this image of 3 coaches since 1969. They think that projects a stable franchise, but I don't think it's a stable franchise. I don't think it's stable at all. And I've had enough of the way they're doing business right now. The Steelers are supposed to be about championships. They've won 2 Super Bowls in the last 46 years, guys.
They're run almost as poorly as the Pirates. Almost. Because at least they're almost worse because they're technically trying to win.
Yeah, they're trying to win. That's right.
and they're not even doing that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of sad. Think about it. The Pirates aren't trying to win, and they have as many playoff wins. Like that's so. What does that say about your efforts? And this is gonna sound. I thought I had this thought earlier because Joe, I know where you're going, and I'll just say it because I don't want to. I don't want anyone else to have to say it. Art Rooney, I think, is the problem, and that's not gonna ever get me a job working for the Steelers, I'm sure. But when I was thinking about that for the last week or so, and it popped into my head today. I think Dan Rooney is what the Steelers were, because let's just face it, Art Rooney, the original Art Rooney, great guy, great owner, bought the team, everything like that, but they were never a winner under him. It was Dan Rooney came in, if you watch Steelers history stuff, and he revamped the whole front office and everything, and his fingerprints are all over those 70s Steelers.
And Art Jr. and
yeah,
Bill Nunn. Art Jr.
Yeah.
and Bill Nunn drafted.
That's right.
And it's just, so it's like we don't have those guys. And now maybe all the magic that the Steelers really had was the personnel decisions being made from the ownership. And I start to wonder, because who lets Mike Tomlin stay? And I joked, I said maybe he's hoping to be like Michael Scott, and he's like hoping someone will just volunteer, and he's waiting for Mike Tomlin to come in and be like, hey, yeah, you know what, I'm done. Like, I don't know if he just doesn't like awkward conversations, but I don't know. It's far past the time for that. So who knows? Let me get a score prediction from you guys. What do you guys think the score is going to be next week?
I actually think they'll give Baltimore a game. I don't think they'll no-show, but Baltimore's better. I'll take Ravens 26-13, something like that.
That sounds about right. That sounds. Yeah. We get a Boz will keep us in the game.
I hope the Steelers show up. I'm sure the best player on the field last night was Cam Hayward again, who's been awesome all season. He is a great leader, and I think he'll show up, and the defense will show up. It's always a close game, but I just can't imagine them going to Baltimore and winning right now. I just don't see it. And that Baltimore team's really good.
And this is really the first in his whole tenure that I'm saying it's time to go for Tomlin. You can't lose the last 4 games of a season like this and collapse and have to go play Baltimore. Because I think they would probably beat Houston, even though I've never watched a second of Houston play football. I would just assume they could probably beat Houston.
But what would that prove? No,
I know.
That's the problem.
Yeah, it's just. And then you hear a lot of the people with with their black and gold colored glasses saying, "Well, we go into Baltimore." They're not going to beat Baltimore.
No. Wildly unlikely.
The fan in me will root for it. It will happen. But this is the first time in my life that I've actually been like this. I was watching it like an autopsy last night. Like, it's over. The body's dead. And I'm just observing what's happening. So,
well, let's just go into last night, though. Like, what was Russell doing when he just didn't throw the ball out of bounds?
Unbelievable.
He could run out of bounds too.
Completely unacceptable for a guy who's really smart, who's been in that spot many times before. For him to lack the wherewithal in that situation, and then compounded by Tomlin not calling a timeout and just letting 15, 20 seconds go off the clock. It was really amateurish. And Russell's interesting because, man, for 5 or 6 weeks, he was really good. And he obviously injected life into that offense and gave them a much higher ceiling. He's not been good the last few games. He's running out of the pocket awfully quick. I know the offensive line's not great. He's running for his life at times, but man, he's just making bad decisions now. He has not been good at all. I don't know how they score enough points to win next week. You can play great on defense. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, they're still going to put up some points. It's just the way it is.
He looks almost as bad as Fields now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like we're back to not having a professional quarterback again.
Right. And it's I know we don't want to worry about the future right now because it's a playoff week, but it makes this offseason really interesting. You can't give Russell Wilson a ton of money. I don't know that Justin Fields was good enough to, keep around for the next couple of years unless he wants to work cheap. It's not really a great quarterback market, but guys, look at the best teams in the league. Look at the best teams in the AFC. What's the common variable? Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes,
Joe Burrow.
I know the Bengals didn't make the playoffs, but we all know they're playing better than the Steelers right now. If you don't have one of those guys, and I know they're not easy to get, but if you don't have one, you're giving yourself very little chance to be a Super Bowl team.
Yeah, you can have all the TJ Watts you want, but if you don't have that guy, it really doesn't matter.
But when you have that guy, you got to coach like you have that guy. You can't coach like you're 1975.
Yeah.
No, that's right.
I think they need to bring nobody back from the offense. Like if no one comes back from head coach to coordinator to quarterback to running back to wide receiver, I don't think there's anybody on that whole offense. I don't think if you cut it down 30 guys and all comprise that side of the ball, I don't think any of them deserve to come. None of them have ever played like, oh, that guy should come back. None of them.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And George Pickens in particular, I don't give a shit how talented he is or how bad the rest of the Steelers offense is. You don't win with people like that. He's a red flag machine. He frankly is getting worse, his behavior. I don't care if you get nothing for him in a trade. I don't need to see him in Pittsburgh anymore, and I don't think I'm alone in that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm hoping he just makes it through the playoff game without having any kind of like massive explosion with his personality, and then trade him for whatever you can get. You know,
I thought isn't he a free agent, or we have him for
we still have him another year?
Oh yeah, trade him for picks. So
yes.
What do you think? From a scale of 1 to 10, what are the chances that Tomlin comes back and it's all the same?
10.
Oh, Tomlin will be back. They might make him fire a coach or two. That's all. That's my guess. Probably the offensive line coach or somebody will get fired, but nothing will really change. They're not going to fire Arthur Smith after 1 year. How about the Patriots fired Jared Mayo after 1 year? 1 year, he's gone.
What was his record too? It wasn't.
It was pretty bad. It was like 4-13, but I mean, not that they had high expectations, but it's interesting that the Patriots are not messing around. They don't think they hired the right guy. This guy goes 8 years without winning a playoff game. That's okay.
Yeah.
Tomlin just really got exposed this year.
Oh yeah, against good teams, against good coaches.
He just really this year. This was the year when it was just like, oh, because he really had a good thing going this year.
Yes,
it wasn't smoke and mirrors this year. It was like, oh no, you have a pretty good quarterback. You have a pretty good offense. You couldn't control your wide receiver. You couldn't pick which running back to use. You couldn't. I mean, they're still running that screenplay that hasn't worked since Lynn Swan ran it in 1978. It's like, it's like it's still a boring offense. It's still they can't block. They still can't tackle when it matters.
Well, listen, I'm from Pittsburgh. I like my hard hitting defense as much as anyone else. The NFL's about offense now. Like all the best teams have offensive minded coaches. All their money's spent on offense. The Steelers are the opposite. It's not working. I'm sorry. It just isn't.
Yeah. It's getting sad. And I hate like the look on Tomlin's face during that final drive.
Oh yeah.
When they cut to him, he looked clueless and like, oh God, like I'm kind of embarrassed. Like it's like, oh God, it's pretty embarrassing to have him.
He had the same look Mike Johnson does.
Yes.
Oh God, Mike Johnson, the glazed look. Oh God.
Yeah. No, that's a great call by you.
Very good call.
He looks like the mayor at the end of the Animal House parade. That's the clip. I gotta go.
Yeah, let's fire Tomlin, bring Mike Sullivan in, and then we'll win back-to-back Super Bowls.
Bring in Jay. I bet JR could be a better GM than the con artist.
Yeah. Let's go for it. Well, hey guys, appreciate all of you listening. Joe's got to run; he's got a big gig tonight, so good luck, Joe. And
got him, Joe.
We'll talk to you guys next week.